Alrighty, hey, Professor Nuvi here. It's Tuesday. I was looking at the last two reaction videos. Kind of sounds like I'm in a library, so I figured, you know what, I gotta relax a little bit here. It's just like, and today we are going to be studying about photorealism. It's not a classroom, for heaven's sakes. Good night. All right. Well, listen here. Picked up another reaction video from a. They call them street artists. Here is my word for the day. It used to be when you go to a restaurant, you had what they were called waitresses or waiters, right? No, they're called servers now. And there were stewards and stewardesses on airplanes. Well, they're called airline attendants. Okay. So I decided I'm going to join in, and I'm no longer going to be called a muralist. I am an environmental visual specialist. Sounds cool, huh? If you're just starting and you're working for me, then you're environmental visual technician. So that's what I'm going to refer to this young man or this person here. He is a environmental visual. I'm going to call him specialist because this is really good. Now this also supports my support for those who like to draw in photorealism. This is a phenomenal parrot that he has drawn. Now the drawback from this is that in this photorealism you have to know your proportions and foreshortening, which we haven't gone into, regarding the wing, and of course you'll see certain things you have to do in order to create this illusion. So let's get started on this reaction video and see what he has. All right, and let's begin. Oh, there it goes. I guess it's slowed down. Yes. My wife put it together here. All right, so this is what's really cool about this here. I'm gonna put on pause. He has not done any what we call Rembrandt grids. Now a Rembrandt grid, actually you take the measurement of the height of the wall, the width of the wall, and then you make 1 foot squares, and then on your illustration or on your reference you put grids on there, and they're going to be 1 inch, so 1 inch is equal to 1 foot, and then you draw into that wall, or you draw on the wall where that square is, and you're going to come up with a perfect size of your bird. And I don't see any markings on there, so he has a really good skill set for drawing out. Now he's probably used a reference like the tip of the wing is probably 3 feet from the bottom, and then over to the far end of the wall it's 5 feet over, so he knows the distance of that, etc., etc. But he's done a great job on this, or he may have done a tracing on this. Either way, there are several different ways to do something. When I get to do a large mural, I'll show you some of the techniques that I use. Again, there's no right or wrong way. It's always makes people wonder, how did they do that, and that's one way he's probably done. All right, let's move on. And he has what they call it's a baker scaffold, which is obviously the safest way to use in your work when you're doing something this size. Now he is using what they call a large air. If I can stop and anticipate. His clouds back here are done with a large air gun. Now this large air gun is used to paint large swaths of paint on a wall for painters, professional painters, but you're utilizing that for the large clouds in the background. And if you look at these clouds, they're rather diffused, but you're going to see why they're diffused. It creates a depth of field that you would create on your camera, and that's what he's doing here. All right, let's move on. He does obviously have a worker. Oh, the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I always stop it at the most inopportune times. Oh, here we'll stop here. If you notice, we'll make a real quick comment. He painted the other wall yellow. It's a highlight wall or an accent wall, and that's also to break up the surface. But he's also created stone, it looks like stone anyway, on this wall that he's working on now. You can see how he's working individually on each one of these wings, and he is working. You'll see how he works differently on this wing versus the other. And I'm not going to tell you why. I want to see if you can pick up, and then of course I will let you know a little about. Okay, here we go. Notice he's also got his paint mixed. He's not mixing it up on the wall. There's always, artists say, well, you mix it while you're on the wall. Others say you can mix it in the can. You can paint it directly on there. All right, so here we go. Notice that he started with the light color underneath the wing. Now he's on the other wing, but he started with a dark color. See if you can figure this one out and why he's done that. I'm going to stop here. You can see, I think he's also done a little bit of airbrushing on that wing. But the reason, if you haven't figured it out, is because on this side, he's working on the top wing. This wing over here, which is on the left side, he's working on the underside of the wing. So he's got two different colors that he's working with. He's got one side working under, the other one on top. And so he's approaching it in a different way. And this is the reason why he's using two different approaches to doing that wing. Phenomenal job on how he's shading and adding highlights to that wing. Now the only thing that I would say, that which is like, and this isn't, it's more of a constructive criticism or more of a how do I say it, preference choice. You can look at the can. He has a can of black. Now when I'm working on a mural like this, I don't use straight black. Now let me back up. When I'm doing sets, I'll use black and white, because those sets are just real quick. They're not going to be used for long. They're not going to be permanent like this mural here. If it's something like this, I'm going to neutralize colors. So obviously the blue, the complement to blue, is going to be orange. So I'm going to use orange and blue, mix that, and it's going to neutralize that. Then with the purple, I'm going to use yellow. That's going to neutralize that, and those are going to be my darker areas. Then I'll come back with a very, very small amount of black. When we get into color theory, I'm going to explain why you want to use the least amount of black. It's only an accent. You don't want to get in there to create blacks as shadows. It's just too dark. I'll show you that when we get into color theory. Okay, let's move on. I notice as on the bigger scale, he's pushed back the top part of that so he can get it on the second level. And see, again, the black underneath the wing is just really stark. So if he would neutralize those or even tone that down a bit, and then use those darks for the really dark part of under the wing, that's going to draw that wing and pop it even more forward than where it is now. All right, let's move on. So he is using his air brush, don't be an air gun, to soften certain areas and create those. So he's using a combination of brush paint and just the air gun. It looks like it's just a larger one. Air brushes and air guns are two different tools altogether. This is what I use in my terminology. Okay, now when we step back, you're going. Right now, it looks like the bird's taking a dive into the concrete, and the beak is bent out to one side. What he's done is he's elongated this beak on the ground. In order to get the full visual effect, you have to stand at a certain corner. I did a mural similar to this at a restaurant, and what we did is it had arches, so it looked like you were sitting inside the patio, and so the perspective on the, how do I explain this, on the outside of those arches created the illusion that the perspective at the vantage point on the south facing wall matched that to the east facing wall. And so when you stood at a certain position, it really looked like that. It gave you the illusion that the buildings on the east wall matched the ones on the west wall, and gave you the illusion that you were actually looking out. You could see the outside. But if you moved, if you weren't standing in that same certain spot, it gets distorted. That's the drawback of working in this kind of style. When you first come in, you'll see the bird distorted, but when you get to the mark where you're supposed to look at it, it looks like it's flying into the room, and that's the pros and cons of working on these murals. But he does have a good understanding of foreshortening and elongating certain things, because when you elongate certain things, they shrink up if you do them right. All right, here we go. Excellent handling on that shadow back there, which is to match the beak that is coming out. Now we are standing at an angle which is properly supposed to be looking at, so you can see how the wing doesn't look bent. It looks like it's just straight out in touching that wall, and the beak doesn't look bent at all. It looks completely not flat, but it looks like it's popping out. But that's because we're stepping in the right position we're supposed to be for this particular image that he has done. I think he's completed with this, just about. We'll remove that tape. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Let me see if I can pull this back a little bit so we can take a look at the finished product. He hadn't taken the tape off, so that right there, look at that. Now you can see how the beak itself looks completely in proportion now, but again, that's because we're standing in the right position to see this bird look like it's flying in from the outside. And notice the perspective on the that you're seeing underneath the brick wall. It gives it depth, and the stone, he's added texture to that stone. He's added some lights and shadows to that. So this here is a phenomenal use of photorealism, and this here also supports the reasoning why photoreal artists are still needed. You can't take a photograph and place it on a wall. You have to have a skill set to be able to do this kind of work, and this is actually a great job. Okay, so when we get into color theory, which will be actually probably not too far away, because we're going to start moving into dry media, such as we're going to do charcoals, Conte crayon, color pencils, and pastels. We're going to kind of start dabbling into color theory, and then once we start getting in out of those areas, we're going to start getting into the wet medias. We're going to start going into about color theory, how to mix your paints and how to work that, and we'll be getting into all this and how to utilize and really pull you away from using black as that is the shade, that's the color we're going to use. And I'll explain why it's not why black is not a color, nor white. White is a tint. I think I said the word tone in another one. It's a tint, and black is a shade. And I'm going to explain and demonstrate why. You'll never look at it the same way after we see this. Okay, so that concludes this time. Now, again, every Tuesday we post our reaction videos. Thursday, I do the videos at 3:30. Again, hit the like button, subscribe if you like what you're seeing, and again, we're growing. There's going to be more to this channel as we move along, and our goal is to hit 1,000. Hey, we're up to 95 subscribers. Woohoo! I'm happy about that. I'll be excited when we hit 100. And if you have any comments, again, just a reminder, Artifacts 1979. Drop your images in there if you want them to be, if you want me to take a look at them and see what you have, and we'll move along on that. Okay. All right. So once again, this is Professor Nufi signing off, and as always, may the Lord be with you, and take care of yourselves, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Ooh, did I stop?